very much. All right, so tonight, what I'll be preaching on is a sermon called "The Flesh Profiteth Nothing." So I'll start out with reading a verse to you where I get the actual phrase, "The flesh profiteth nothing." It's John 6:3, and who knows what John 6 is? That's when Jesus says, hey, you must eat my flesh and drink my blood. And the Catholics actually take this quite literally. But then Jesus says in John 6:3, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. Now, I'm going to take this out of context. Now, that's why I gave it to you in context. Now, I believe a lot of Scripture can be pulled out of context if you do it the right way. And, instead of it just being for the purpose that it serves in the story, it can have a broader scope of a lesson too. You can use it for different things. That's just the power of the Word of God. There's a wrong way to do this and a right way to do this. The one thing you got to do is to make sure that you don't contradict Scripture when you're doing this. So, and this is not a sermon. No, it says the flesh profiteth nothing, right? That is telling you that you can't enjoy life. When I'm walking you through this and I'm preaching this to you, I'm not saying that you can't enjoy this life, okay? Like fun with the family. I do that. I like vacations. I don't take a lot of them, but I like vacations when I do take them, and that's what makes them special. You go to the fair or something like that. There's like rides, or how about this? You know what we used to do when we were kids? Go to an arcade. That was actually kind of fun. That's an old way to have fun there. It's super expensive nowadays. You go there's like $500 to play 3 games or something like that. Win like 5 tickets. Or like go to the lake or boating, whatever we do around here. We're lake people around here, you go to the lake, you have fun. Good, clean fun, Not saying you can't do that. But we all know that there is a point where it goes too far, right? We can take things too far and where it doesn't even get to sin, but just so you're overdoing it with the worldly things, with appealing things to the flesh, feeding your flesh. Where it's just, you're not really giving a lot of energy to the Lord, you're giving it more to the world. The first subject that I think about when it comes to the flesh profiting nothing is that we can only go so far with the flesh. Turn to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is a great place to learn about what man can do under the sun without the Lord. What is there to do without the Lord? He gives almost a hypothetical in Ecclesiastes saying, hey, what's man got without God under the sun? He almost gives a type of hypothetical or a pretend scenario, if you will. Turn to Ecclesiastes 3, verse 11. It says, He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also he has set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor, it is the gift of God. Now turn to chapter 5. Chapter 5, verse 18. It says, Behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he taketh under the sun, all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. For he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God answereth him in the joy of his heart. So we see that God gives the man under the sun ways to not only labor, but to enjoy the fruits of his labor, right? There's nothing really wrong with that. That's something that's just a cause and effect. God made this world to labor in, and you can enjoy, you can eat the corn. Paul says the ox should eat of the corn that he treads out. I minced that up. But in Ecclesiastes 2 is the last place we'll be turning. Ecclesiastes 2:24, it says this. Pay attention to what this says. There is nothing better. Okay? There is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. Now he's saying, hey, the gift to all mankind, really, if you just stand back and look what the world has to offer, just the world, and just man working in the world, is that they labor and they enjoy the fruits of their labor. Eat and drink and enjoy the fruits. Make his soul enjoy the good in his labor. But it says there is nothing better. What's that? That's a limit. That's it. In the flesh, that's it. It's just, okay, you work, and now you get to, have some food, have some drink, maybe go on vacation. But really, you kind of reach a point where there's no going any further, is it? It's kind of like when you go to a really good restaurant, and they make you pay $25 for a burger or something like that, okay? My friend, a burger can only get so good. Eventually, it's just a burger, and it's just like, what are you doing? Sprinkling gold dust on it. Oh, wow. Okay, that's why it's $25. But ultimately, what? You pay $10, and you're like, that's about as good as it gets, right? $10 at a whatever burger place. Some places are gooder than others. Better than others, not gooder. If my wife here, she'd give me a dirty look if I said that. But anyways, Solomon quested to find out what it's all about in the Son for Man. And it's that. It's just, hey, they get to do all this stuff and eat the fruit of labor, but then what? And it was vain in his eyes. He said, this is vanity. Because if that's all you got, then life becomes meaningless very quickly, doesn't it? Just to fulfill the flesh, food and raiment. That's it. Buy some Nikes, maybe some Gucci. What's a good purse that's good out there? Come on, ladies. You probably knit your own. Coach, okay, yeah. Woohoo! Life is so awesome. There's meaning in life. I have my purse I want. Okay? And for men, too, like the nice cars. I'm not like saying ladies don't like nice cars. They do. But, like the sports car or something like that. Or maybe their team goes to the Super Bowl 10 years in a row. That's what it adds up to. You look at, in the world, really successful people. I'm not talking about someone that's just doing well in life. They have a business. They're doing well. They have money. Upper middle class, and we'll talk about that. But I mean uber successful people that have so much money it's coming out of their nose, they don't know what to do with it, and they end up, they got the fanciest house, the fanciest car, the fanciest hotels, luxury lifestyle. And a name that always comes to mind when I think about this is the Kardashians. Okay, they got their own show and stuff like that, and people watch it. Why? Why do you watch this? It's envy, really. When it comes down to it, they look at these people and be like, man, they just got it all figured out. They got this life of luxury, what it would be like to be a Kardashian. I bet it would suck, actually. I bet it's not that good. I bet it's actually a curse to live like that. But, actor families, there's back in the day, the one that you hear about was the Baldwins. There's 6 or 7 of them or whatever. Or big CEOs of companies like Amazon and stuff. These people are super rich, even Elon Musk or something like that. What else could they do? He's like, you know what I'm going to do? Elon Musk, I'm going to go to Mars because he has all this money. But really, if there is no God, what are you going to do on Mars? Build another Earth? Then what? Eat the same food, same clothes, same Nike, same Adidas, same type of movies, same music. It's all the same. What a planet it is, Elon. Anyone else know anybody they like the name? You don't have to. But in Ecclesiastes, he says that these people, if they make it honestly, if you have, they can enjoy the fruits of their labor. But that's all they got. That's all they got. Now think about the main plain John and Jane, okay? The main plain people in the workforce, making normal wages, maybe even more than normal, like upper middle class, like I was talking about. If they have a high-paying job, they're honest work typically, company managers, or they run their own companies, etc. Nothing wrong with that. And they have a form of enjoying those fruits of labor, right? Which is what we typically see in the middle class, right? But now think about the man that's struggling to make ends meet. This is struggling to make ends meet, right? Now, I'm not saying this is because they're super wicked or anything, but it's just what unsaved people do that don't know anything about the glory of God or the kingdom or anything, is they strive for riches, don't they? You see them buying 5 $25 scratch-offs at a time, and they just keep on recycling those, trying to win the lottery, which is a litmus test for being dumb, by the way. You have a better shot of getting struck by lightning twice while, balancing on a ball and spinning plates or something, whatever the odds are. But the thing is, they strive for riches, but it's only in their dreams. That's what it is. It's only in their dreams. That's what they dream of. Most never achieve the level of luxury that they want, ever, right? They barely get to enjoy the fruits of their labor. It's all about just keeping up with the bills, right? The mortgage, the rent, the car payment, the clothing, the food, electric, blah, blah, blah. I've expressed this before. I remember I was thinking about it, and I was like, wow. I'm just thinking about what the things I have to pay for and saving money here and making sure I have enough for this state when this money comes out automatically, yada, yada, yada. Just think if that was all that life was for me. Like, how boring, just miserable and boring that would be. I get so sick of it so immediately. But these people, hopefully they get a weekend, and what do? A lot of them, they go to the bar. They're not all of them. They cut loose, do their thing. They cut loose like everybody else. Maybe they smoke something, or do some drug to escape the mundane repetitiveness of life, and it's depressing, so they got to escape, right? But that has its limit, too. It's just like, oh, there it is. You get to have your weekend and do your little thing where you try to escape with substances. Imagine that's all your life is. Barely scraping by, and then you got the weekend. That used to be my life, by the way. I know what that's like. And I'm not, now I'm not some rich guy, okay? Everybody knows that. Look at my suit. It's missing buttons, they flop everywhere, They kind of don't fit, things you see here, hand me down, guys. Hand me down. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I really am. I am. I'm not saying you can't have nice things. I'm not saying you can't have nice clothes. But I'm just saying I'm not a rich guy. I'm not even close. And I do just work to pay the bills. That's what I do that, okay? I'm not working so I can get a yacht someday with all my friends and family, okay? I'm not doing that. No private jet. That's not in my radar. In fact, not even a huge brand new house is in my radar. Not a brand new, it's not. Oh, I hope I can have a big closet for all my awesome Nike clothes. No, it's not on my radar. I like cheap trips with my family. Okay, that's what we do. That's what we save up for. We're cool with just going to St. Croix and going to Walmart. Oh, a different Walmart. Oh, it's just, that's the kind of things we do. But here's the difference. That the Christian can and should have living a simple life is that we can look at this life in a totally different way. And we've said this before because of the simple fact that we're saved, right? We've beaten the grave. There's a victory that we have over the grave. There is no sting there anymore. That's one thing that should give you another level of joy in this world, of contentment, really. That there's a God to please and worship in this life. He's real, a purpose to serve that's much bigger than ourselves. And this is a common reminder, isn't it? McCoy and I, he does his best to remind of the joy you should have in your walk with Christ. I try and remind you that. I know I can get lip splitting up here, but I do try and touch on the joy that you can have, knowing that you got the truth, knowing that God is real and that you're saved forever, right? And if you can't find joy in this life as a Christian, man, I don't know how you're going to make it. How are you going to make it in the life? And then people have way harder lives than me, too, and they find joy in life, because they're serving the Lord. People don't get it until they try it, Sometimes they have to mock at it, and they think that there's something else in the flesh, like, no, it's way better in the flesh. But really, you're just going to hit that boiling point and then sizzle out. That's what's going to happen. You don't stay young forever. Your bones start hurting. I'm only 36, okay? You guys saw me. My back went out, okay? That only happens every once in a while, but I guarantee you it's going to happen more often. That's why I don't bench, Kyle. I don't squat, Kyle, right? My back might fall off or something. And yes, we do our best to teach to be there with content, whatsoever state we find ourselves. Because if we don't, and here's another way to look at this, the flesh profiting nothing, that's our theme. Another idea we get from that saying is that we can commit a sin that gets overlooked, I think, but to God is super serious because of where it can lead, and that is what? It starts with a C. Covetousness. Coveting. Covetousness is like a gateway drug to bigger sins. It really is. Wanting something we don't have, always wanting something bigger, better, newer, the next year, bigger bonus. Next year, more profit. And that's all it is. Or wanting something that belongs to someone else too. Like, what's the Ten Commandments say? Coveting thy neighbor's wife or anything that he has too. Because of envy, right? Now, before I get too far in that part of the lesson, I want to just reestablish this. Why is it that my focus isn't on the fact that I'm scraping by? And you know what? I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not ashamed either, because it's not like I'm not doing anything for God in my life. Yeah, I might be forsaking a lot of fleshly, luxurious things, but I get to serve God. I get to be up here. I get to be in a nice church where we get to revamp the building. I mean, it's nice in here, isn't it? It's cozy in here now, isn't it? I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't that bad before, but at least it doesn't smell like a dead rat. No, I'm just joking. Come on, guys. We got that smell sometimes, but I think we got it taken care of. But, it's nice, isn't it? I'm just making money to pay the bills. But I put all my money, so to speak, on God to keep me healthy, right? To make sure the house doesn't burn down, right? The vehicles function, and especially Kirsty stays healthy too, right? If she gets sick and she's, at the house taking care of 4 children, she gets sick, I'm at work. I got to work. And so I really have to depend on God. And that so she can, continue watching the assets, okay? Children, those are God's assets, okay? My arrows, God's assets. And, so I don't fall off a ladder. So how do I find joy in life? Well, everyone else, for the most part, that has a lot in life, just like me, isn't happy or content. How? It's the purpose, friend. It's the purpose, the higher focus, okay? The focus of not just how far can I go with the flesh? Well, you're going to find out, like everybody else, that there's a limit. And then what? You're going to crash. You're going to crash. That high is going to crash hard. Now let's focus on covetousness now. Luke 12. Let's turn to Luke 12. What's Jesus have to say specifically on covetousness? Luke 12:15. We'll read to 21. Luke 12, verse 15 to 21. Excuse me. And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, because I have no room where to bestow my fruits? And he said, This will I do, I will pull down my barns, and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. Kind of reminds me of Ecclesiastes, doesn't it? But God said unto him, excuse me, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall those things be, which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasure for himself, and is not rich towards God. So here we see a man's sole purpose in life was to collect riches, right? He never had enough. And when he did, he built bigger barns, bigger storehouses, just enshrining his riches, right? And God may fill up your cup by good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, but that doesn't mean you become a cup collector, okay? He's doing that for you, yes, so you can have what you need. But when you're over in abundance, that's because there's someone else probably around you that needs it too, that needs something, that doesn't have their cup overrunning. Okay? God gives those things in overabundance, not so we can bathe and drown in it. Okay? Because in order to have God bless your cup like this, to have it filled up, shaken, overrunning, right? You need to do what? Give. And it shall be given unto you. Right? That's the condition of your cup being in such a state from God, is that you have to give in order for it to be given unto you. So covetousness and not being content with what we have causes us to forget to give to church or to a brother or sister who needs it. It doesn't necessarily have to be through the church, even though that's where we do a lot of it, but just personally out of your own free will, or a special cause, like the building project. Like I said, this is nice. I mean, what more could you really ask for? I mean, maybe more space someday, but honestly, this is pretty nice. I'm happy with it. But this man in this parable, he found out what? The flesh profiteth nothing, didn't he? Another way the flesh deceives us into thinking it's more than what Ecclesiastes says is the type of attention we get from the world and how it's not negative. Okay, so turn to 1 John. Turn to 1 John. We'll see and talk about this. The negative attention we get being Christian, if you're walking with Christ, right? Even in a little bit sometimes. You'll get some tests come your way because people will try and mock you or do a little power play on you or something, see what you'll say, and will you deny him or will you actually speak up and say what's right? Someday. All right. 2:15. All right, 1 John 2:15. It says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever." So, what I want to focus on in that is the pride of life, is what pops up in this part of the message. What is this? It's being popular with the world. That's an example of that. Appealing to the unsaved, so that we don't appear different. That's how we try and gain popularity. Appeal to them. The achievements we can attain through like sports or something, or career and such, and just having I don't know, one other way of pride for I used to have back when I was younger is I used to be in really good shape, and that was a prideful thing to me, not so much anymore. Okay, God knocked me down a couple pegs. Okay, not like that anymore. I'm still fine, but that used to be a problem for me back when I was younger. That's a type of pride of life. Or wanting to be admired, right, by the world and other people, or instead of being shunned, okay? Or you don't want to embarrass people because of your beliefs. Now, I mentioned power play. Has anybody ever been to like a family gathering, right, where it's unsafe people? And when I go to family gatherings, it's a bunch of unsafe people. What are you going to do? Mom, Dad, everybody. It's my family. And every once in a while, someone will test you. They'll put a power play on you. What do I mean by that? I remember one time, I'm not going to say who it was, but it was Christmas time, and they're like, "What's wrong with Santa?" And looking over at me and my wife. What's wrong with Santa? I mean, what, you can't celebrate Santa? I mean, I think that's just weird. Not really saying it to us, but saying it out loud so I can hear it and so other people can hear it, right? That's a power. I'm like, oh, power play here, trying to get me to what? Subvert or something like that, But here's the thing, you don't have to be a jerk. But I suggest that when that does happen, you do say what you believe. You do. It's a good practice for you to get your confidence rooted down in what you believe. But it also lets people know where you stand, which is good. It's a good strength test of courage. And yet, maybe they'll still look at you as a freak, but at least you'll be an honest freak, right? Rather be an honest freak, right? Because then, that probably won't happen again. Now, it does sometimes, like Halloween. Oh, it's a good socially responsible thing to do for your kids to get them out there and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with it. Speak what you believe. Defend. You don't have to be a jerk. There's a time to be a jerk. I'm serious. There is. Like when you really got to like put your foot down and let people know where you stand. I've had to do that at work, because you're dealing with some, the P words. But you got to let them know where you stand. And sometimes you got to raise your voice a little bit and tell them stop, right? But most of the time, you just got to tell them, like, no, actually, I think Santa's ridiculous. Or I think Halloween's I think it's actually just satanic. And if you say it bluntly enough, like that, nice and calm, people are just be like, oh, okay, well, that's weird. I'm like, so? Sorry. Doesn't matter what they think. But those tests come, right? And being shunned away and embarrassed, you don't feel embarrassed by that. I mean, yeah, your flesh might feel that way, but, let it pass through you and just realize, you know what? This is who I am. Let it be your identity, right? Let it be your identity. So instead of the praise of God we receive from living peculiar lives, mortifying the flesh and walking in newness of life, that higher focus, we put our energy to try to mingle our Christian lives in a life that is appealing to the world. We try and mingle it in. And I use this a lot because it just it's good for works-based salvation, not mingling the linen with the wool. Well, guess what? You don't want to mingle your Christian life with a worldly life. You don't want to mingle those things. You want to be either or, right? Now, here's this deception debunked. I'm going to debunk this for you. You will not ever grow. You won't ever grow in the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ while you try and what? Serve two masters. Why? What's Jesus say? Because you'll love one and what? Hate the other. Right? And let me tell you, you get caught up in this futile game trying to walk in two worlds. You will succeed in neither, actually. Why? Because you're not putting all your energy into one of them. Right? Because you're double-minded. You'll end up speaking out of both sides of your mouth. Right? You're unstable in all your ways. In the world, in order to try and get some attention acceptance, you'll end up doing something overboard, right? Overcompensating, maybe saying something stupid, trying to be cool, right? On the inside, you will feel uncomfortable, though, probably, right? So you will come off as awkward and not organic, right? And natural, because these people may even know that you're a Christian, so they will know that you're not being a Christian, and they'll just think you're a flake. Now they just think you're a flake. Way to go. And in the Christian world, instead of being a natural way you behave, and when you come to church or you're with Christian people, you end up feeling aloof and ostracized and guilty. And perhaps because you feel embarrassed by your outside of church lifestyle, you'll lie. You'll lie to people, right? Now, I'm not saying, like just the other day, fake it to make it kind of thing. Hey, if you're having a bad day, come to church with a smile on your face. Try not to be infectious with your bad mood. That's a virtue. It is. You don't have to just wear your feelings on your sleeve, wear your heart on your sleeve all the time. But you lie to people, or you say inappropriate things, maybe even accidentally revealing to others your worldly life. But the worst part is that you may come off indifferent to the congregation and take others with you that aren't strong in the faith, that are struggling. And they see you just kind of being like, whatever about church. And maybe they'll just feel that way too. Now, I'm not saying that there's worldly Christians who don't really have a hard time being like the world, right? Like they just are in the world and they seem like they're doing fine because they don't go to church. They don't hear preaching. They don't read the Bible. They don't pray. They don't have any really good conviction in their life. So really, they have no problem living in the world. But I guarantee you, the more you get in church, the more you get into God's program, the harder it is to be a worldly person. Or just the fact that it's no fun. You're just constantly reminded about who you really are. And it's no fun. But even then, what do they profit? What do those people profit that are living in the world? They're not in church. They're saved, but they're not in church. They drink of the fruit of the labor under the sun. But here's the thing. It all gets burned up. Like in 1 Corinthians it says, and if a man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. bringing nothing in. You know, the conveyor belt will have all their stuff on it at the judgment seat of Christ, going through this fire, and he just pulls out a little gem. Like, oh, look, you prayed for the church that one time and meant it. There you go. Make a little bracelet. Another point we find, this is probably the last thing we're going to talk about, is in Hebrews 13. Hebrews 13. The flesh profiteth nothing. In my flesh dwelleth no good thing. Right? So let's read from verse 5 to 6 in Hebrews 13. It says, let your conversation be without covetousness. That means when you're having a conversation with people, when you're behaving around other people, don't be this person that's just always discontent with everything. You're not like whining about everything that comes across your path. Like, this ain't good enough. It's just like, it's terrible energy, so to speak. Let your conversation be without covetousness. And be content with such things as ye have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That's God saying that. Verse 6, so that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do unto me. And both of these verses, they end being about how God will not forsake them and that he is their helper, and to not be covetous. Those things go hand in hand. If you're covetous, then you do think that God will forsake you. If you're covetous, you don't think God is going to help you. Proverbs 30, 7 through 9 says this. Well, actually, I'll just turn there. Yeah, we can all just turn there. Let's just do it. We have some time. You can turn there. Proverbs 30. Proverbs 30, verses 7 through 9. I love this verse. It's one of those things that cross my mind from time to time. Those things that stick out to me. Maybe it's because of my environment, how I was raised, my life, whatever it is, this pops out to me. So, Proverbs 30, verse 7. 2 things have I required of thee, deny me them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. Lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. You know, that's something that really strikes me, because that is the exact opposite of covetousness, isn't it? Okay, you don't want to be full, because you might say, well, who's God? I don't need him. Or you might be poor and end up not just being covetous, but taking it out on God, blaspheming his name, saying his name, like shaking your fist at him and stealing or something like that. Right? Instead of just being content, having that convenient food. The Bible says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. That's a popular verse, isn't it? For the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, just the object. Okay? It has no way of being evil itself. It's you loving it, right? It pierced themselves through with many sorrows. The thing we see in all this is that when we put all our bets on the flesh, we forget God. We lose faith. We have erred from the faith. What's the proverb say? Lest I be full and deny thee. Now that's not saying rejecting Jesus or God for salvation, by the way, anyway. But denying the walk, picking up the cross. You're denying that. You're denying calling on God for help. I got everything I need in the world. Why ask God for help? But to have that which is convenient. Therefore, I have no worry to distract me from walking with God and being full, or the opposite. This world has all sorts of ways of distracting you. And I was talking about freedom just a little bit ago when I had a sermon about freedom, and how this country is great because we do have so much awesome things in this world. It's a very prosperous country, the most prosperous country in the world that has ever been. But on the other side of that, there's all the distractions that can just take your energy away from God. Okay? So it's a double-edged sword. Okay? Yes, we have it nice in this country. Amen. God bless all the good things he gives us. Because God even, Ecclesiastes even says, it's a gift from God to have this country, to have the freedom. But it's also a distraction if you let it be. Jesus says, woe to them that are full, for ye shall hunger. We are called to transcend the flesh. The reason why you're going to hunger, because you're full of the flesh and it doesn't last. Like I said, you just hit a ceiling, and then there's just nowhere else to go. With God, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit of what you can learn, how better off you can be, as in like inside yourself with your character. You can always try and work on things. God can always try and do things with you, with the Holy Ghost inside you, making you a better person. That's the good focus, transcending the flesh. I love the life is more than food and raiment. It's more than flesh and blood. Purpose, friend. And you will see if you stick with it, the people that are doing things for God are not living lives of luxury, not super popular amongst the world, and people hear that and it freaks them out and scares them. But when I go through life, I think, bills, I got to keep in shape, food, what kind of food am I going to have? I want more than that. I want more than what the flesh has to offer. I want more than just the philosophies of the world. I want more than what it just has to offer, because you hit a ceiling, and it's a repetitive cycle throughout the ages too. They just keep doing the same things and rapping in a different wrapper. But with God, you open his book. You can learn something new every day. Why? Because you're a forgetful person now, right? Because we forget, we got to review things. But then there's always something to learn. Always something to learn. And I know that this is kind of not exactly what I believe, but I was listening to this old lady on the internet. And she was talking about, how am I going to worship God for all eternity when I run out of things to say after 5 minutes? How am I going to do that? And she thought about it, and she's like, I think he's just going to show us something new all the time for the rest of eternity. And that's kind of like how the Bible is. You just get something new all the time reading the Bible. And yes, you review things. Like I'm in Leviticus right now. Okay? Talking about animal sacrifices again. Here we go. But I focus on it. You know why? Because there's something in there. I know there is. There's something in there. Last thing I'm going to say. It's talking about walking in the kingdom day by day. I love this verse, and I'm going to leave you with it. 2 Corinthians 3, 15 through 18. I'll just read it for you. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace of Christ, grace might, through the thanksgiving of many, redound to the glory of God, for which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. Now, it doesn't mean you're getting born again and again. No, it's just that every day, the flesh gets old, things get old. Newness wears off, the luster wears off of new things. Right? Things decay, things perish. But with the new man, it never happens. He's always there, ready, having joy with the Lord, and you can just step in it, and it's just new every day, every single day. And it says, for our light affliction, by the way, he added light affliction, not just affliction, light, which is but for a moment worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Talking about the spiritual things. God, heaven, the rewards you're going to get. I talked about this not a while ago. We can't even comprehend what it's like. You can't comprehend heaven. It's not lawful for us to speak about it. That's what Paul said. That ought to make you think, and it also make you wonder, but also to have a joy in this life that that's for you. That's your inheritance. You're going to get that. But you can get rewards in heaven, of course, and this is not what this is about. But just to end it on that kind of high note, The more you do these things, the more you walk with God. Winning souls to Christ, my friend. You're going to see something in heaven that God has prepared for you that you cannot imagine. That's all I have for you.